All right, we're trying again. Trying again. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. Give it a couple seconds, for people to kind of filter back in. Hey, Paul, why don't we sing that hymn again, just to kind of. Is that okay? Thank you. God, reveal your presence as we now adore you, and with all appear before you. Here in this your temple, all within keep silence. Gather now with deepest reverence. You alone, God, we own. You are God and Savior. Praise your name forever. God, reveal your presence. Hear the harps resounding. See the crowds, the throngs surrounding. Holy, holy, holy. Hear the hymn ascending. Angels, saints, their voices blending. Bow your ear to us here. Hearken, O Lord Jesus, to our humble praises. O great fount of blessing, purify my spirit, trusting only in your merit. Like the holy angels, gathered all adore you, may I ceaselessly adore you. Let your will ever still rule your church terrestrial as the host celestial. Amen. Oh, you're trickling back in. Good. 10 people. Good to see your number. Anyway, we're going to begin with our opening prayer. And that is found on the handout that was sent to you by email, and it's also on the screen behind me right now. As a fire is meant for burning, may the fire of Pentecost burn within our hearts today. Revive us, renew us, restore us in the true passion of our faith. May our worship bring joy to our hearts this day as we sing, pray, share, and learn. Amen. Amen. Theme time this week. I wanted to talk to you about the events that led up to today's service, being here with me alone with Paul and you, most of you anyway, on the YouTube, best we can. Earlier this week, we were all taken aback and a little bit surprised when the government announced that plazas or places of worship were allowed to open as of 12:01 a.m. Friday morning. This was greeted with shock by many of my colleagues and myself, because many of our congregations have many vulnerable people who are at risk of COVID-19 and who are definitely more vulnerable to the effects of the disease. People who should not be here, and that's kind of like most of us. So we kind of looked around to each other. We spoke to colleagues on the phone and by the internet, and there were all sorts of meetings happening by all sorts of people. And finally, the decision was made on Monday on Friday, at a special meeting of the council to suspend in-person worship at Rothwell United Church until at least Labor Day weekend. At least Labor Day weekend. Things could change. There could be, it could be a second wave. We don't want to, back ourselves into a corner. So we think that is the safest course of action. And we really hope that all of our neighboring congregations are doing the same thing. I know the United Churches in Ottawa are in solidarity over this. We don't want to risk our people. I know the Anglican churches are as well. There are some other congregations of different denominations who have just been itching to open. And, I guess it's legal. But is it beneficial? Well, I guess time will tell. So I'm really grateful that council made that decision. It's a decision made out of love and an abundance of caution, as they say. And so we will continue on doing this, I hope better. We'll get Rogers in this week and figure out what's going on with the connection, because we really do need to get that fixed. This is an essential service as far as we're concerned. So we'll get that going and get that fixed. And when we do open in the fall, of course, it's going to be different around here than it has been, different from what we're accustomed and to what we enjoy. And we'll see what that looks like. And to figure out what that's going to be, a COVID-19 task force or reopening team, or however you want to call it, has been struck to figure out how we're going to have the sanctuary laid out. We're going to have to block off pews. There's going to be stickers where people can sit. There's going to perhaps be, traffic flow arrows on the ground. There'll be, marks outside to line up to get in. Imagine that, a line up to get into the church. But it's all going to be, kind of like going to the grocery store, how things are. But it's going to be here, and that's going to be weird. My personal thought is to kind of have a soft open, to kind of gradually come back, as some of our neighbors are doing. Orleans United Church is one of those, where we don't start off on Sunday mornings. We start off maybe midweek, like on a Wednesday night, just arbitrarily saying Wednesday, could be another night. Come in and see what it's like, and just kind of have some practice worship. See what it's going to feel like. There could be rules in place that are going to be really strange, like no hymn books. No paper orders of service, things like not being able to sing, perhaps not even having call and response back and forth, people being encouraged and maybe even required to wear masks. There will be a login, there'll be a sign-in sheet at the front of the church, because if we have to do contact tracing, then we need to have an idea of who've been here. The other reality is that our daycare is not opening this week, but they're going to open the week after next. Again, it's an essential service. Many of the parents who we have in this daycare milieu, they have to work, and they have to get their kids need looking after, and this is a place where that can happen. So I guess kind of luckily, we're not going to be here for 2 months to kind of have that sort of cross traffic. And we'll also be in contact with and working with our tenants at ACMO. That's the Sunday afternoon Caribbean congregation that worships here, and also with the Seventh-day Adventists, to see what their plans are, just so that we're all on the same page. This is our first pandemic. None of us are good at this. We're all amateurs, but we are being expected to do a very important job, and we will do the best we can. And I think, again, my mantra through all of this is to be gentle with each other and gentle with ourselves. And there might be decisions made that people go, oh, why do they do that? Well, they did it out of love, and they did it with the best information that they had available at the time. And that's what we're going to do. Anyway, that's the theme of the week. The theme is stay away. As much as I want you here, I don't want you here. We're going to continue on right now with our scripture reading, and it comes from Genesis chapter 18, verses 1 to 15, and then we're going to go over to verses 1 to 7 in Genesis 2, but in chapter 21 this time. So, Genesis 18, 1 to 15, 21, 1 to 7. The Lord appeared to Abraham by the oaks of the Mamre, and he sat at the entrance of his tent in the heat of the day. He looked up and saw 3 men standing near him. When he saw them, he ran for the tent entrance to meet them and bowed down to the ground. He said, "My Lord, if I find favor with you, do not pass by your servant. Let a little water be brought, and wash your feet, and rest yourselves under the tree. Let me bring a little bread, that you may refresh yourselves, and after that you may pass on, since you have come to your servant. So they said, do as you've said. And Abraham hastened to the tent to Sarah and said, make ready quickly 3 measures of choice flour, knead it, and make cakes. Abraham ran to the herd and took a calf, tender and good, and gave it to the servant who hastened to prepare it. Then he took curds and milk and the calf that he had prepared and set it before them, and he stood by them under the tree while they ate. They said to him, where's your wife Sarah? And he said, there, in the tent. Then one said, I will surely return to you in due season, and your wife Sarah will have a son. Well, Sarah was listening at the tent entrance between him. Now Abraham and Sarah were old and advanced aged. It had ceased to be with Sarah after the manner of women. So Sarah laughed, saying, after I've grown old and my husband is old, shall I have pleasure? The Lord said to Abraham, why did Sarah laugh and say, shall I indeed bear a child now that I'm old? Is anything too wonderful for the Lord? At the set time, I will return to you in due season, and Sarah shall have a son. But Sarah denied, saying, I did not laugh, for she was afraid. He said, oh, yes, you did laugh. The Lord dealt with Sarah as he had said, and the Lord did for Sarah as he had promised. Sarah conceived and bore Abraham a son in his old age, at the time of which God had spoken to him. Abraham gave the name Isaac to his son that Sarah bore him. And Abraham circumcised his son Isaac when he was 8 days old, as God commanded him. Abraham was 100 years old when Isaac was born to him. Now Sarah said, God has brought laughter for me, and everyone who hears will laugh with me. And she said, who would ever had said to Abraham that Sarah would nurse children? Yet I have borne him a son in his old age. Let us listen for the word of the Lord within these words. I love to laugh. You know that, and I know that you love to laugh too. We have a lot of fun around here. We have a lot of fun at home. I think laughter is so therapeutic. It is a release, and it's just simply fun. It feels good. There are groups that get together to laugh, for heaven's sakes, or at least they did before the pandemic. What do we do when we're at home alone? We try to watch shows that make us laugh. We watch comedies, and we have a good time, and and it's fun. But what is laughter? What is that physiological response that we are having when we laugh? Well, psychologists will tell you that laughter is a few things. There are a few things going on with laughter. One of the constituent parts of laughter is fear and unease and relief from that. So if you are running down a pathway in the forest and you trip on a root of a tree and you find yourself kind of stumbling around and and you start to laugh, that is that fear and unease and that relief, and you have a physiological response, and that is to laugh. It has also been said by comedians, I don't know which one, I'll have to look it up, but when comedians said that laughter or comedy is pain plus time. Again, that's another good description. So there's different kinds of laughter. We hear a joke and we laugh, and it's, the punchline gets set up. There's that tension. We sort of get to the top of the mountain, then bam, and it's funny. We watch America's Funniest Videos or YouTube videos or whatever. They're called fail videos right now. And we laugh at other people's expenses. There's that fear and that tension and the release, and we laugh. Back in the old days, way back in the in 2007 to 2010 on social media, they started to experiment with different ways that we could react to comments that we saw on our news feed. And really, originally, it was just a thumbs up. Same thing on Twitter. It was love. It was thumbs up on Facebook, and on Twitter it was love. Can I make one of those things? And that's was the reactions, and it was pretty limited. And I guess that kind of made sense, because a little icon could be so misinterpreted. So just to have a thumbs up means one thing. It means, hey, that's good, that's positive. And then they expanded it. And I'm sure there was a lot of work that went into the different reactions on social media that you could just sort of click and it would pop up. And so there was like, And there was angry, and there was love, and there was laughter. And I wonder if the laughter, because I think is one of the most misused things on social media. Somebody, posts a funny video of something, I don't know, like a dog chasing a rabbit, whatever. And you go, it's funny. But then when it gets into some kind of more weightier issues, as a political thing or whatever, people are clicking that laughter thing, not because of fear and tension release and that resolve of laughter, but really out of derision, scoffing, that kind of mocking type sort of laughter. That's a different kind of laughter. That's a darker kind of humor. That's a humor that ridicules and seeks to harm. The question is what was Sarah's reaction to God's news that she would have a child, that she would have Isaac? Was it the latter? Was it the mocking derision? Or was it the fear and tension and release and joy? It's the age-old question. When we did our Bible study a few years ago about bad girls of the Bible, Sarah was one of them. And one of the things we did realize was that the women were absolutely pivotal in the people of God becoming the people of God. They had an important role to play. And it wasn't just because they were the ones who had the babies. It was the ones who orchestrated things behind the scenes for God's will to be done. They were not given their due, and often they were called bad girls when really their actions were absolutely those hinge moments that brought us to this sanctuary today. Sarah was one of these people, considered to be bad because she laughed at God. Well, I think I would laugh too. I would. If somebody told me